In this section, both offspring are issued at twice the rate, and this is called homosexual reproduction, since gender and reproductions are homogeneous. Um, so as I was saying, both these organisms speciate into something that could reproduce over something that couldn't reproduce, and statistically, I don't understand how this can be more prevalent over a system where both of them can reproduce, or eventually cross pollinate. The SRY gene functions by, which is located on the Y chromosome, functions by redirecting the ureter through the birth canal, extruding the birth canal into the clitoris, expanding and engorging the clitoris, sealing off the area around the clitoris, specifying sperm production in the ovaries, pushing the ovaries down and outside the body. These are all major changes caused by one gene. It is female genital mutilation on a biological scale. I wanted to get into the other spiritual aspects of the female genital mutilation. It also means that males being bigger and having this modification also lowers their operating frequency on all levels of their bodies, and the gradients between the top of their bodies and the bottom increases much more strongly than with girls. Another problem is that girls have a much easier time transferring energy between parts of their body and between frequencies, literally moving through sweeping through their dimensions, sweeping through the dimensions along their bodies than males, which also allows them to be more aesthetically pleasing in that way than males. I still don't know why males even exist beyond fertilization, since plants are capable of cross-pollination. I don't know why they incubate their young inside their bellies. Trees do not do that. Which of these systems do you think is better? Now, I could only find a technological reference for this, but literally, just like how a seed grows out of the dirt in the ground, you could literally have a sort of seed that grows animals instead of plants, rather than a human incubating litters of her pups inside her own belly for several months on end at a time. This is a very, very weird. This is one of the archaic leftovers of our evolutionary past, and we have evolved ways of dealing with this problem now. One of these ways is technologically actually simulating a womb, which is actually very simple according to this actual picture, but also specifying that females don't do this anymore. This could imply that males actually eventually aren't necessary for future reproductive purposes. Another constant problem is that whether you're male or female, and people are being threatened, people find that what threatens them are other people from other countries. And there is this example where a soldier goes to the army and it has victory over the other army, and does terrible damage to them, and then gets old and then dies. And what happens to him is he is reborn and reincarnated into the losing side's army, and he is defeated by a soldier of the army he was just a part of, and he watches his village terrible things happen to his home people. Now, he was a proud soldier of one army, and when he died, naturally he became a proud soldier of the other army. But both of them had terrible consequences, whether his army were victorious or his army were losing. Even though the consequence was the same, one of them lost. What happened was, you could be born in a terribly poor country and then die, and then be reborn in a terribly rich country and then die again. with differences between cultures being purely hereditary. This is an example of a cow that had been genetically modified to restrict an enzyme that restricts the myostatin enzyme, which inhibits muscle growth, which means that these cows are actually naturally grew very strong muscles without needing to exercise or anything. So it is very much possible for humans to evolve this trait, just as these cows have been manipulated to evolving these traits. Site-directed mutagenesis is one of the ways to to actually insert a gene that removes another specified part of the genes. In this case, removing the SRY gene will leave the XY organism as a female, and as a sperm-producing female, she could easily fertilize the egg-producing female. There is no reason besides pure biology that the XY organism was supposed to be anatomically different in any way from the XX organism, besides reproductive organ systems. So in this way, they can both fertilize each other. However, the XX organism, the XY organism won't become pregnant from the XX organism. So to fix that problem, we might need to implement a double fertilization or cross-pollination pattern into an animal organism. These are my citations. So eventually you would have a place where animals, if it's going to be implemented, it's going to be optional. But not only is this feasible, but these people should have a higher survival rate, and should be happier than people are currently. Another serious connection between this outcome and this one. I do not understand negative numbers. Here is a picture of the Mandelbrot set. It contains all possible recursive functions in a single image. However, there is something wrong with this shape, and I finally found a program to do this. The last time I did this program was before I found this program. This is an iteration. Okay? The next integer value z n plus 1 is equal to z of n, the current point, squared plus c. And when you keep doing that, when you keep running this iteration, this is what you get. In fractal space, each point assumes asymptotically this shape that looks sort of like a tadpole or somebody's spine structure or something. In logic, apparently, a times negative a equals negative a squared. A times negative a equals a squared. A times a equals a squared. Do you see I see a problem here. This is called amplifying a negative. For and not a equals a by negation, plus a equals a, where's the negation? If plus a equals plus squared a, not a should be not squared a should equals negative a, should not make it positive. So how is it that I have a certain type of value at I squared and I get a positive? There are, in English, there is a difference between not and minus. Let's say plus equals and, times equals and, not equals 0, minus